I'd like to invite Anita Gupta, Senior Vice President and Strategic Communications Advisor for DHL Group. Prior to this role, she was the head of global media relations at the same company. With over 30 years of executive leadership experience, Anita is an expert in designing and executing strategic global communications for major organizations and brands. In her previous roles, she has worked with American Express Bank, Citigroup, and also supported Hillary Clinton's fundraising thing. That's awesome. So kudos to you. Ladies and gentlemen, Anita has come all the way from Bonn, Germany. So let's thank her and let's give her a rousing welcome. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. It's a great pleasure for me to be here today, and I can't believe I'm really here. It was maybe 10 p.m. last night. I polled my family and a couple of friends. I said, should I really go? I sprained my ankle in Greece 2 days ago, and I have a flu and a fever coming on. But amidst charms and the word that I gave him, and I promised Sonya I would be here, I said, I will never again get an audience of 600 corporate communicators. So how can I not be there? So please forgive me if I break into a violent cough or halfway through my presentation I sit down. I'm sure I have your support, right? Thank you. All right, let's get started. I'll be quick because I live near a hospital and I always hear bells. So I'm not going to hear a single one today, right? Okay. The evolving role of communications is one of the most critical topics that have engaged the minds of CEOs, heads of HR, heads of PR agencies, because we live in a volatile and a very uncertain world. With the mushrooming of channels from hyper-transparency right to misinformation, we are, all of us, grappling with what next and how do we keep up. And the education and learning time is just not there. The 3 key milestones of my presentation today will be, first and foremost, what are the fundamentals of culture? And here we will look at both social as well as corporate culture. The second milestone would be the reality of counterculture. Are we equipped to deal with it? It probably has not confronted most of you, but you never know because we work for global companies and global teams, and India is one of the world's largest global marketplaces. And finally, what then is the evolving role of communications? What are the skills that we require? And what are the non-negotiable trainings that we must all undertake? So with that, let's just dive in very quickly. Society is nothing but elements of culture, be they religion that binds us together, be it as the kind of food that you enjoy, the kind of people you like to hang out with. So when you see a Durga Puja in Bengal, how it binds the Bengalis, or if we have Thanksgiving in the US, it's a feeling that's engendered. It's what Priya mentioned, the oneness that you feel hanging out in Park Hotel, and I am from Calcutta, by the way. It is this sort of oneness and cultural identity that brings societies together. But having said that, it doesn't happen on its own. There are catalysts, there are pioneers of change. And who are these? We have educators, of course, who inculcate trainings and build heritage. We have artists who use their own cultural narratives and perspective to transport culture. We have the media and influencers who comment and lead opinions that also shape perspectives. Policymakers, of course, uphold tradition, culture, diversity, and also have regulations for those who don't. And finally, NGOs and advocacy groups that celebrate language, festival, ethnicity. It's because of all of them we are who we are. But let's quickly fast track to corporate culture. And all of you have definitely seen this. But what is my interpretation of culture eats strategy for breakfast? Probably in my 30-plus years career, I have hired more than maybe 200 people. Some have gone on to blossom in the organization. Some lost their way in between. And some just couldn't take it anymore. And what is the one thing for those who did succeed? They just fitted into the organization. So culture is definitely not a code of conduct. It's not about your leadership values. It's not about your ethics. It's not what pay you are getting or what you're communicating to employees, to your customers, to your vendors, to your socially responsible business partners. It's a very strong, invisible, and stark reality which either brings you into an organization or ejects you even before you realize you're out. So just 4 very quick examples here, and I'm very mindful of the clock already. What does McDonald's stand for? Standardization, uniformity, seamless customer experience. If you look at a very different example, to my extreme right, top right, would be Disney. It's creating happiness for the toddlers. In the US, people save for an entire year or even more to bring their children to face the magical experience of going to Disneyland. And that's what Disney has built its brand value on, the magic of happiness. But if you look at technology companies or consultancies, they are stark opposites. In a McKinsey or a Bain, it's all about customer stickiness. It's about personal leadership. It's about problem solving. It's about knowing that you belong to a hierarchy. You start off as an analyst, you become a senior analyst, and then maybe or not, you become a partner. And if you don't, that's fine too, because McKinsey will place you in one of their client organizations, and you continue to be a part of them indirectly. But it's very different in a Google or in any of the tech companies. There you are known for your individual contributions, for your strength in data analytics, for innovation, for being able to express yourself any which way you want, to come to work in casual, comfortable way. It's totally opposite, and both are great industries to belong in. So corporate culture, being invisible, however, needs one to be adapted to. But you cannot transport culture on its own. We need the channels. And here are the mushrooming of channels, and I'll go very quickly here, because you know from radio, we went on to televisions, the rise of internet, then we went to social media, and to immersive experiences, which is our reality today. But in all of this, we also have to deal with hyper-transparency. We have to deal with fake news. We have to deal with misinformation. So what is our future, really? We must all embrace the shift. And the shift is to be able to navigate a global group of stakeholders. It's not enough to write for Priya, for instance, and do her memo. You have to also make sure it appeals to the Gen Z that has just entered. They don't use our language. It must also appeal to the government. And how do we as communicators make sense of all this? Well, we are very much like jugglers. And I couldn't get a juggler image, so forgive me for it, but I kind of put up the plates there. But our messaging, our corporate ethics, our corporate guidelines, our corporate mentorship programs, affinity program, each and everything must reflect the pulse of having resonated with each of the group that form culture, because corporations live and breathe in a certain culture. It doesn't matter if you're based in Pakistan or in Japan. There are distinct cultures, so global is fine, but local is equally important. The shift has gone from top-down communication. The chairman wants this, the boss wants this. We need to develop ourselves as strong communicators who are totally data-centric in providing advice. Because, as Priya also said in her communications, that the customer doesn't always know. The CEO does not know what solution he wants. He has an idea, but he expects us as communicators to inform him, guide him, and shape what he should be. So talking about the uncertainty, each of the images that you see here are already past. What are we talking about today? Today we're talking about Anna in KPMG on the television. That's what I watched yesterday. We're talking about pagers and not even drone warfare anymore. We're talking about Trump's second assassination. The world is volatile, uncertain, and in a blink of an eyelid, we as communicators are relied on to make a decision. But how do we do it? Are we set up? Do we have the infrastructure? Are our teams organized to manage news flows speedily? And frankly, is speed what a CEO is looking for? Maybe not. He wants a more thoughtful, more data-driven approach. And you can't have all of that unless you've been thinking about future-proofing your functions and your departments. They have to be built now to be managed the later. And what is never spoken about in communication conferences, so I'm going to take a second and just talk about it very quickly. It's very important for us as communicators to be able to understand what are the macro trends that are moving this world. One, digital trade and e-commerce. Each and every industry is being faced to come up with a response. Sustainability. Is the resourcing there for sustainability? Are customers willing to pay for it? Third, digitization. ChatGPT can write for you, they can't speak for you. And finally, urbanization and globalization. Each of us must spend the time as communicators to be fully briefed, because every bit of advice that you give anyone will have to resonate with the four themes. Moving on, so what then is the evolving role of communications? We have to embrace a stakeholder-centric approach. We have to shift from one to all to many to up and boil up good news, bad news, all kinds of news that the top management must know and face. And to be able to do that, we must not only be creative in how we deliver the bad news upstairs, but also be extremely creative on how we can nuance issues, because we never know everything about everything, even as we are making the messaging. We know only half the story. The third thing, of course, for us, is employee ambassadors. You know, I've heard very often, I work for a company, and I promise not to do the DHL name and advertising, but I'll say something here, that we are 600,000 people across 220 countries and locations. And I was told by my CEO, because somebody told him at a McKinsey meeting, that, you know, you should use the employees as ambassadors. That's terrific. I mean, imagine people giving testimonials of their company. So, of course, Frank called me and says, you know, Anita, can you go explore this employee ambassadorship thing? And the answer is always yes, and by when do you need it? And I went back and, of course, called my team in a huddle and said, we got to do this employee ambassador thing. And so we formed a little program in which we wanted everybody to go out and tweet about something. And we wrote out the tweets, we sent it to Africa, we sent it to our colleagues in Japan, to Latin America and everywhere, you'd be surprised. We got pushback. Not from Asia, but colleagues in Europe, where we are headquartered, as well as North America, said, why would we push out messages which build positive brand image from our personal accounts? This is not part of work. This is free advertising. If I am so gratified by my company, if I am delighted, in any case, I tweet about it. But the moment I'm told and it's put into a program, I'm suspicious. So we have to also evaluate things against real-time feedback. We have to test, we have to have focus groups, but more importantly, we have to be organized in this way so that at short notice, and we were not, our program bombed, but I was really happy to deliver the bad news and get some more resources for digitization. So sometimes it is the lack of resources, your failures that go on to build better teams, better training programs, and overall better communications. And now I want to very quickly change gears to talk about counterculture. Counterculture is something that we are witnessing around the world. I don't have examples for India, but you know the country far better than I do. And counterculture, to my mind, is positive because it brings about, it challenges normal thinking on a matter. It provokes criticality. It takes out an issue from the four walls of a corporation into the public domain. And it forces organizations to reshape guidelines, principles, and sometimes the corporate narrative as well. So let's look at a few very quick examples that I've taken from Google, Uber, one from China, and Amazon as well.
Google, Google, you can't hide.
We charge you with genocide.
We charge you with genocide.
Google as a brand is one of the most envied brands. But currently, there is a lot of dissonance within the company. And this is because they see a conflict of values. And after having taken up issues of either outsourcing, where Google had made a commitment they would not outsource top computer engineering jobs to low-cost locations, which they did, to India and Mexico. They had said they would not have layoffs in their core team, but Python engineers, which is the really creme de la creme there, were asked to shut down their teams. More importantly, AI has wreaked havoc, and employees were not getting satisfactory answers until today. There's uncertainty, there's frustration, and Google has not responded satisfactorily. So in a situation where the company does not have a response, this is not a normal crisis. It doesn't come under crisis comms or issues management. It comes slap bang directly on, are you doing what you are saying? And if not, why not? And if you're going to continue, then have a valid explanation so people have the choice to move on, embrace another culture, or accept and continue to contribute to the strength of employees, customers, and shareholders. I have another example with Uber.
We are tired.
More than 100 Uber drivers gathered at the Potrero Center lot Wednesday morning, including 8-year Uber driver Abdullah El Hanya, here to protest unfair wages and platform deactivations. Drivers say terminations are often abrupt and without explanation or an opportunity to appeal.
They've been deactivating unfair deactivations.
So at Uber, what really happened is the whole culture of gig workers was not very well understood. As a result, it faced workplace discrimination, lawsuits across the world, which cost the company millions of dollars. There was harassment lawsuits, and finally, the CEO lost his job. The board could not deal with it, the share price tanked, and they had to bring Dara Khosrowshahi as the new CEO to manage Uber. He was told that his most important job is to rebuild integrity, to rebuild trust, and to understand what is the culture of gig workers. And I have to say, fortunately, today Uber drivers do get sick pay. They do get allowances, which are not exactly similar to full-time workers, but they are treated more equally. There is a respect for diversity. But the interesting thing is, as a matter of culture, Uber continues to have global expansion at the core of its business strategy. However, because of counterculture movements, they have exited those countries which are heavily regulated. Okay? Now, I have to be more nuanced when I talk about Amazon. They are a very important customer of DHL. And I have far deeper insights that I can share with you. And it's a company I respect for many, many aspects. But Amazon has had its fair share of counterculture as well.
Amazon workers hit the picket line Friday morning in Pontiac outside the fulfillment center there, frustrated.
We're all fed up. It's gotten to this point. It's been boiling up for about 2 years now. It's gotten to the point where we're about to erupt, as you can see now.
Nick White, an associate at the Amazon fulfillment center in Pontiac.
Amazon has stated that one of its corporate focus is global dominance in logistics. And when you state that, what does it mean? Profitability at all costs. And rebalancing growth and employee satisfaction has been a very challenging task for them. Employees complain of endless working hours. There's stories of people having given birth at Amazon warehouses. It goes on and on. Until today, there has been no resolution to the problem. But employees are not only having grievances about workplace discrimination issues, they're even concerned about sustainability. Because Amazon maintains huge data centers across the world, and they feel on the one hand, you can't say you're a sustainable brand, and yet you're threatening blackouts throughout the world. So Amazon is today confronted with one of their biggest issues, which is called Make Amazon Pay. It's a global movement, and for the first time, this movement was able to form a union in the United States, which is one of the most difficult countries to form a union. They have done it, and they have got support not only from Spain, Italy, Germany, of course, the home of unionism, but this is a constant pinprick for the brand, and they said that till their grievances are settled, they will continue to target strikes, particularly during peak season, which is Black Friday and Cyber Monday. But how does the company respond? They hire more contract workers and deliver excellent customer service. But that doesn't mean that they have resolved the issue. So it is now almost becoming a dilemma than an issue. And the way I separate the two is if you have a problem, there's a solution. But you have a dilemma, you don't have a solution. So these are some of the trends I just wanted to share with you, where leadership must foster constant dialogue with all the stakeholders to be able to ensure that the brand can survive. And on a lighter note, from China, all of us have grappled with either hiring Gen Z or the millennials, the fact they put me always on a treadmill. I hire them in January. By September, they're asking me, so what's the next role and what's the next raise? In China, what started off as a TikTok competition is who can be the worst dressed going to office. And you can see these pictures. These were pictures taken in the summer in China. They said, we are going to go sloppy because we don't care. As long as our work is recognized, why should we spend money on buying suits and high heels like the ladies in Shanghai do, or the suits that the men buy? So we don't need to. We're going to do our work and we're going to go. And the companies better accept it. And finally, as you all know about the Chinese economy, it's an aging economy. They're slowing down. There are not enough jobs being generated like in India. And companies have become more flexible. So you can go any which way you want in certain industries, as long as you do your work. But I have heard that banking and finance continue to be posh-dressed, so to speak. So that's an example from there. So to bring it together, what are the key learnings? And I would say there are 4 key learnings that I think are extremely important. One is a strategic mindset. When you're providing a communication solution, don't be the first one to put your hand up. Think of the root cause. Take a little bit more time. Talk to HR. Your best friend should be the lawyer, by the way. And I'm very sad my best friend is also retiring at the end of the year in DHL, but how many times he has held my hand, and I'm the one that has shone with his advice. So always be friendly with lawyers and try to develop a strategic mindset if it's not intuitive to you. Number 2, when I was much younger, I used to think that let me do this perfect communication plan and take it to my boss. And I wasn't reporting to the CEO then. And the boss would be so pleased. 50% of the time I was wrong. And why was I wrong and why did I fail? It's because I didn't involve them early enough. Because the amount of information that's in a CEO's head, or what the CEO has shared with your boss, which he hasn't shared with you, will immediately blow holes in your perfect plan. Involve senior leadership early. It won't make you look that you don't have enough information. It'll make you look more collaborative. So I really think that's very important. Flexibility. Things don't go our way all the time in terms of PR programs. There's always, excuse my French, the asshole factor that comes up, which you can't foresee. But have the grace to say, okay, he who lives and runs away lives to fight another day. But I see people crying back from the boardroom. I'm done, my career's over. The board didn't buy the program. Like, have a thick skin sometime, go have a drink, and we go back tomorrow and present the whole thing in a different way. Sometimes it works. So we have to be more like the business stakeholder mindset, rather than live in our own comms bubble. And finally, I'll say, 20 years ago, we could do without too many measurements and charts and graphs. Not anymore. It should be second nature. We should have a dashboard of tonality. We should have a dashboard segregated into all what the stakeholders feel about a program. It's not enough to say, oh, these are the customer satisfaction scores. Those days are gone. We will not have the respect of the board. We will not have the respect of business managers unless we can talk to them in their language and tell them their investment and what has been the return on it. So, to bring it all together, cultural and social awareness is most important. The second one should bring some laughs. We are communication, and I'm talking about communication. Well, exactly right. There are so few communicators that are able to articulate exactly what they mean with the right words, with the breadth of experience rolled into the word, and the right nuance and diplomacy to carry on to the end of the sentence. And as I said, ChatGPT can't do that for you. But maybe enrolling in Toastmasters can help you. Because the more you speak, the more you will be able to, and the more you are able to, more risk you can take in your articulation. Cognitive and strategic skills, yes. No need to say that. And interpersonal, we can't do enough of it, not at a social microcosm level, at our family level, and also us as collaborators. Because our department is always short of resources. I was the fundraiser for Hillary, and I can't tell you the 2.5 million that I raised amongst Americans in India, they weren't from the rich CEOs, like Ajay Banga, who was heading MasterCard, or Anita Gupta of McKinsey. It was from the Bangladeshi fruit seller. It was from the Sikh taxi driver. It was from those people who would never get to meet Hillary in their lifetime. One taxi ride in those days along Manhattan, say from 35th Street to 58, would give you a paltry $7. Now it's much more expensive. But they willingly gave their money. Why? It was the concept of liberty, the concept of democracy, that if we have a Democrat there, my family back in Ludhiana will get visas to come to India. And from those small $7, $8, $10 checks that I collected, I learned the meaning of collaboration and interpersonal skills. To buy a banana just to talk to him about what democracy meant. Speaking in Bengali, speaking in Hindi, whatever limited languages I knew. In the same way, if you want to broaden your resources for your department or your team, engage with people and you'll be surprised. There are so many pots of money in an organization. You just have to know which bell to ring. And my closing slide, 8 minutes before time, is the art of communication is the language of leadership. Let me give you my own personal interpretation of this. 4 sentences here. Sentence 1. Communication is not about sharing information. Second sentence. It is about leading, influencing, and shaping change. If you put 1 and 2 together, I would like to redefine the purpose of communications, which is we are actually the leaders of social change and progress. Thank you very much.
When Amit asked if I would be happy to moderate this session, I was very excited, but I had never had the chance to meet Anita personally, even though we were both in Singapore at one point in our careers. When she traveled to London a few months ago, we had the chance to meet for the first time, and I was just absolutely floored by how amazing she is and the incredible growth that she's had in her career, and so aspirational and inspirational. And she also shared that this is, she's winding down in a way
yes.
with DHL. So we're very fortunate to have her here with us today.
Thank you, and I was very impressed by you that you were able to do something which I was not able to, which is to start your own agency. I thought about it so many times, but with a charming boss who would just come and put his arm around me and said, "You did such a great job today." And I said, 10 more years signed up for this company.
It's never too late, Anita.
I'm
it's never
sucker.
too late.
I've really been a sucker for praise.
Amit, you never know. We might have Anita at our IndieComs event as an independent agency head next year. Why not?
Why not? Anything is possible.
Excellent. So we've got a few minutes more of Anita's time, and I was hoping that some of you might have some questions. I was, of course, you were very right in that, you know, what's been playing on our minds over the last 48 hours has been the news that you referenced with Anna, and the information that a company puts out on its website might be very, very different from practice. So in your role as the comms lead, and how do you see that playing out?
I mean, last night, I was pretty drugged up, as I am right now. I'm a walking pharmacy. But I was shocked at the discussion in the television. I'm saying, why didn't ENY ask what was the cause of her death? She had the option to resign at any point. My sympathies for the dear and departed, but where is the fact basis of this incident? Which reporters were allowed to put in and immediately go and attend such talk shows? I think the company should have taken a much more fact-based response to the entire incident. I can understand the grievances of the family, even the Calcutta rape case. Sure, there are facts coming out every day, and we don't know what's happening. But in the whirlpool of uncertainty, in a volatile climate, when you know your brand is going to impact so many other brands, when you know that we try to eke out 48 hours of a working day, we all do it at all levels. Where is the messaging? And I'm sorry if the agency for the company is here. I would love to hear from them as well. But let me take it on myself and say, if I had to do this, I will definitely call a group of core reporters first in and guide them as to what are the facts that they should help us seek before allowing the matter to explode the way it has.
Hopefully, there's a learning for organizations through this. But just going back to also the 4 cases that you mentioned, large organizations that seem to be largely profit-led. And in those situations, how can we as communicators make an impact that makes a difference to employees within and the communities that we serve without and not just centered around shareholder value?
And thank you for asking this question, because it's a very important question. The communication department in most companies is the most under-resourced department. And yet, when there is headline news, who does the management run to? It is not about the communicator or the leadership of who's the head of communication. It is about how have you resourced that department. Do you have an issues management team that is constantly looking at digitization, e-commerce, that is looking at global trade, that is looking at women's issues, that at short notice can come up and help the organization? While there are others doing products, there's somebody doing strategic communications. We're just not built that way. And therefore, in Google, as I said, it's become a dilemma. The lawyers in the US strong-arm the communicators there, and I know because I have friends there. They're not allowed to say a single word because of the legal implications of what can happen. They have terminated people from Project Nimbus, where they were working on an Israeli military contract, because they spoke up that the information from Project Nimbus is going to be used against the Palestinians. There is no resolution, but there must be infrastructure and resourcing so that there is a team that is thinking and managing these issues, and that the rest of the comms department is untouched, and they can continue building the positive brand image that they're being paid for.
I think a lot of this seems to highlight the importance really of organizational leadership and the values that they uphold. Because as communicators, there's only so much we can do without their support. As part of the independent agency's event yesterday, one of the things mentioned was in India, the experience we seem to have sometimes is that it's all dependent on what the CEO wants, and then the agency or the comms people are just left to execute on that. How could we shift that a little so that to make it a little bit more of an equitable playing field for us as well?
I'm also a certified coach, so I will answer this question a little differently. Point one, this yes culture happens all over the world. It is not only in India. It happens in the US, it happens in Japan, it happens in Thailand, it happens in Mexico, it happens everywhere. Okay, so it's not an India phenomenon. Number two, the reason why it happens is because there are bills to pay and families to feed. A CEO has so much power. I have been told, Anita, I don't want to see that person again. If you're a large organization, you can take that person and change the role. But what do you do when there aren't enough jobs? And this is why, even in government, in the most critical PR roles, you will find that the yes culture is there. But if you build a strong interpersonal relationship, if you want to tell a CEO the hard truth, well, at least have the sense not to say it in front of 5 people. Take them aside and say, this is going to bomb. I'm telling you so. So it's diplomacy, it's interpersonal skills that is required. And also the third point I would like to make is, as a communicator, your career is really made or broken by who you work for. If you have a boss that lets you flower and grow, then you will build that self-confidence. He will let you attend meetings when he's on sick leave, and you will be presenting to the board. And when you have that stature, that respect, with that, your advice will be taken seriously. But if you are the goody two-shoes, which I have been for a very long time in my career, doing the perfect PowerPoint, dotting the I's and crossing the T's, never getting to see people at the board, then you will never build senior management presence. Then you will stammer and stutter when you have been asked to present to the board at a very short notice. Or a board member calls you and asks you to do something that you are unable to. It depends who you work for as well, and how they grow you and nurture you.
Thank you. Are there any questions at all? I'm conscious we're probably a minute away from 2 tinging bells.
My name is Deepika Batra, and I'm from On Purpose. It was so wonderful to hear you talk, and I have to go back to my office and share these learnings with a larger team. So I have one question for you. You said that the role of communicators is not to share information, but
not only
to share information, but leading, influencing, and shaping change. Do you feel communicators are effectively empowered to play that role? And how much corporates rely on us as communicators to, be partners with them in creating, that change? Or are there situations where they can conveniently pull the plugs on communicators? Maybe you can take the EY's case. How do you think this would play? Thank you.
So you've asked me a couple of nested questions that one goes into the other. So let me separate the strands. Number one, are communicators empowered? My personal belief is nobody empowers you. You have to empower yourself. A for-profit organization means it's a competitive organization. I will want to shine more than you, and I will want to make more profit than you. In this very competitive environment, you cannot live your personal growth and your empowerment dimensions to anyone else. Every organization has an HR format. There are trainings, there are discussions, there are focus groups. If you don't speak up and grab the mic, nobody's going to empower you. So I think I got that question, right? Your second one was when I was headhunted from Citibank to come and work for DHL, it was for one division. Within a month, and I told my CEO, you're paying me too much to do this small job. Can I work for the other divisions? He said, I really don't mind if you have the capacity and the energy, but make them pay for it. That's how I expanded my role. Thank you.
Thank you.